Coming live from Austin, Texas, the Panasonic S5II. If you don't really feel like watching the rest of this video, I'll cut to the chase. This is the best hybrid camera for someone that doesn't own a camera wanting to do mostly video. So since there's so many videos already out about this amazing camera that has basically taken the YouTube world by storm, I'm just going to talk about a few things I like that maybe people haven't talked about in other videos, and then a few things I don't like, as well as some compatibility things for Leica users that are as excited about phase detect autofocus migrating from this camera to Leica cameras soon. So what do I like about the camera? I like the color science. I like the usability, especially on the video side. I like the quality of the image beyond the color science. I like that it has white balance, ISO, and exposure compensation as buttons that you can just hit. I like the custom functions on the mode wheel. I like that you have 3 control dials, front, back, and then spinny dial in the rear. I also love that you can push the spinny dial left and right. That's pretty cool. I also like the vents for cooling this thing. Not that I'm taking a lot of 2-hour videos, but I just like the fact that you could without it overheating. I like that you have a dry mode dial right on the top of the camera. Super sensible button and dial layout. I love that you can put Leica L-mount lenses right natively on this camera. Things I don't like about this camera. When you turn the camera on or off, the shutter does not come down to protect the sensor. And there's no way to turn that on as an option. This is an enormous pet peeve of mine. I hate cleaning dust off sensors. It just freaks me out. Another thing I really don't like is the viewfinder. Besides being smeary when it moves around and you have to sort of track movement with it, it's kind of low resolution and hard to see. The screen is quite small as compared to other mirrorless cameras that I've used, including the Leica SL2 and SL2S. I do not like this shutter button. It feels a little loose and wonky. I've had 2 or 3 of these come in and out of the studio. This one's the best one, so I think maybe it might have been somewhat of a first run problem and they fixed it, but just something to watch out for as you play with and buy one in the store. It's got a weird startup time thing. The first time you turn the camera on for a session, it takes a long time to start up. However, after that first time, it starts up pretty quick. So not a huge deal, just something weird I thought I'd mention. Another thing I don't like is that the time between when you bring the camera to your eye and it switches from the back screen to the viewfinder image is quite slow and a little bit laggy. Also, the viewfinder itself can be laggy, especially if you're moving the camera around in low light. Another issue I encountered is that Panasonic's focus on video results in there being a bunch of features that don't quite work right in the photography modes. For example, when you put on the XLR adapter to this camera, which works fantastically well, by the way, it turns on the volume meter levels on the camera's screen. However, when you take the XLR adapter off and switch out of video mode, those volume levels are still on the photography view screen, and there's no way to turn it off. I confirmed with the Panasonic rep, there is in fact no way to turn this off. Panasonic's aware of the issue and they just haven't fixed it. This is also evidenced in the quick menu items. I know there's a way to customize it, but just the way it's set up, it's very paltry in terms of photography options, but then plentiful in the video options department. So the quick menu looks great in the video, but then in the photo modes, not so good, kind of missing some features, such as exposure metering and f-stop options. This is a nit that I have with basically every modern mirrorless camera except for Leica cameras. You can't turn on highlight exposure warning, the blinkies as it were, on this camera except in playback. I believe that the Leica SL2 cameras are the only ones that do this, which just kind of blows my mind. I know that the CL did it too, but that camera is sadly discontinued. Leica come out with a full-frame version of the CL. Anyways, moving back to the Panasonic camera that I'm supposed to be talking about. Admittedly, the lack of blinkies isn't a huge deal because you can actually turn on video-style zebras in the photo side of things with this camera. Kind of a happy side product of them having video features weirdly leaking into the photo options of this camera. But personally for me, the zebras aren't as helpful as the blinkies when I'm in a situation when I want to know if I've blown my highlights or not. It would be much faster to hit a button, a custom button probably, and turn on blinkies really quick. See, okay, I've blown that, turn down the exposure, they disappear. with the zebras, especially when you're in a bright light situation, it's harder to see, so kind of annoying for me. The last topic I wanted to talk about with this camera is compatibility issues. I'm actually a Leica shooter for the most part. So for me, this camera is really just a stopgap until Leica comes out with a camera with phase detect autofocus and all the features that you might want in this camera. Perhaps an SL2 S2? I of course tested its compatibility with various Leica items. It is totally 100% compatible with Leica L-mount lenses. The eye autofocus works, the phase detect autofocus features work, and so on. They work as well as any Panasonic lens and the one Sigma lens I tried on this camera. They're all about the same, and the performance of any particular lens is not about whether Leica or Panasonic made it. It's about the actual motors and amount of glass and weight of the lens moving around in terms of how fast it focuses and how well the eye autofocus works. On the other hand, adapted lenses do not work on this camera. So I have the Leica S to L mount adapter, does not work on this camera. The Leica M to L mount adapter does work, of course, because M mount lenses are manual focus, but you do get the pass-through lens information when you go look at the file afterwards, which is nice. I also had a lot of fun adapting contact lenses and other lenses to this camera, and like any other mirrorless camera, manual focus lenses work great on this camera, especially with its improved color science, which I think is probably taken from Leica. I also tested the ProPhoto Connect Pro trigger, the new trigger that they've just come out with in the last year or so, for Leica. It does not work on this camera beyond manual functions. So in other words, auto mode or TTL auto metering does not work between the Leica trigger and this Panasonic S5II camera. So in a nutshell, this is a great camera. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you haven't bought into a mirrorless camera system and you're trying to figure out which one to go with, and you're thinking that's largely going to be about video with some photo, like for YouTube, this camera is probably the way to go. It's stinking awesome, not to mention the fact that you can put natively Leica glass on it. Whoo doggy. Man, does the Leica 16-35 look good in terms of video quality. Take a look at my previous video filmed in the gear closet about the Hasselblad X2D. The portions of the video where I have a microphone in my hand and I'm in the gear closet, that was filmed on the S5II using the Leica 16-35 lens. Man, I think it looks fantastic. It also sounds great too. The XLR adapter for the S5II is great. On the other hand, if you're looking to get into a mirrorless camera system for just photo, I would probably tell you to wait. This is not a perfectly tuned photo device. Can you take photos with it and will you get the results you want? Yes, but it'll take a little bit more work than a Canon, Nikon, Leica, Fuji, what have you. So, in sum, am I keeping this camera? I'm not totally sure yet. I love adapting my Leica lenses to this camera, or even putting natively the few L-mount lenses I have onto it, but it's just not a Leica camera. And so I don't know if it's worth keeping for me. I have enough cameras already that shoot video, and I don't really need a video-only camera at this point. I'm just not shooting enough video. What do you think? Is this the perfect camera for you? I could see a lot of people watching videos on YouTube that this might actually be the perfect camera in terms of features and price. For those of us that spend silly amounts of money on cameras, I think that this is probably a little bit too low end of a camera, and it's just a harbinger of exciting things to come, and we'll see what the next S1R looks like, or the new Leica lines of camera, etc. So, just for funsies, I'm recording this last part of the video on the Lumix S5II. What do you think? Is this video quality better than the Canon I was using to film the rest of the video? Is this keeper video footage? Would you use this? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.